fiscal 19 budget. I have a quorum, right? Okay, so welcome. And what did you say? We were
40.
6:40, okay. So I have a quorum. Let's talk about our fiscal 19 budget. If we get that far.
I think everybody already has this information. We're going to take one and pass it down. That's the balance sheet of assets at the moment. And this is just, you know, the FY19 budget request that we will get if the override passes.
Maybe pass them out here
Is there lots?
too. Yeah, there seemed to be enough.
Oh, okay, so this
Yeah,
is
there's 11
Oh.
of each, so 8,
Okay.
and then some to pass around.
So we don't, that's more up to date then, okay? That's more up to date than what we,
It's dated today.
yeah, I know, I don't have it then, because. but
Yeah,
you
it's
said
more
that-
up to date than the last one you had.
Okay, so
slightly.
I don't have this one.
Nope.
So, okay.
The numbers might be the same, but you haven't received this one. It is new.
Oh, these pages are stuck.
Is this new?
No, that's just the 2 columns out of that forecast budget that are, I just took the rest out so I didn't have to use legal paper.
Good. So that's the same as this, right?
Mm-hmm.
So this-
If the override passes, we will actually be well-funded. $6,922 above MAR, because that's what Matt initially asked for in the service forecast, was what we needed to maintain services. Because, you know, what we've been kind of looking at into the future, only asking for MAR, is, you know, sort of the situation of the town at large, you know, 2.5%. Every year doesn't keep up with municipal expenses. 2.5 of the average of the last 3 years is even less than that. So I mean, we would have had to have started, you know, trimming staff here, you know, reducing service, or just basically relying more and more on grant monies, which would have led us to not having enough grant money to cover capital, which would have led us to have start asking the town for capital, which, you know, just would have spiraled down until, you know, we couldn't have level serviced just with MAR in the future. And so this budget does have level service built in. So we, in essence, frees up a little bit of grant money that we would have had to have shuffled in to augment the budget otherwise. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. Any questions?
So do we have to decide to make decisions on what you?
That's up to you guys.
Or can we wait until after the?
No.
election?
It is up to you guys, what you want to discuss in terms of what happens if the override does not pass. So if the override doesn't pass, you've seen the budget requests, or the budgets, the proposed budgets, they cover enough to keep the building heated in the wintertime so that pipes don't burst and basically flood and destroy the building. That's what you get. For anything else, you'd be reliant on, you know, donations, grants, private monies.
They give lights?
You wouldn't need lights.
No, but is that, are they assuming,
Kerosene lanterns.
I honestly don't know what they're assuming. They're just assuming the
Well, the
building is
furnace-
going to be closed.
Yeah, the first would go on with electricity, right?
yeah,
Well, I prefer to wait till after the vote to discuss if necessary, as opposed to now.
What we're talking about is what happens If you don't get, if the budget.
This was
is
the
not
email
passed.
I sent on Monday.
Right. It's hard to even like think of, for me, it's hard to even think of the override not passing.
My only
It's hard to look at that and think,
heads up to you guys is that tomorrow night is the public hearing with the finance committee, where anyone in town can ask anything they want regarding the budget. So if questions arise as to the library and what's going to happen and all that stuff, then we'll need to be ready with some kind of answer,
Why?
or else wing it,
Why?
or else
I mean, why
refuse to
can't we-
answer.
Yeah, just say, well, wait until after the vote. Has FinCom actually talked about the override at all?
we talked about it briefly at the end of the last meeting. But they didn't take a vote, but a few of the members said they were undecided or, well, undecided. They didn't really go beyond that. They did,
Are they talking about it tonight?
yes.
They're continuing their.
Continuing the discussion. It would be really ironic if all the boards and committees in town supported the override except FinCom.
Yeah. Would be very strange, I think.
Which is why it won't happen. They will.
Um,
I mean, have they even, there's a $1.5 million override question, and then there's a 220 odd thousand budget for the library. Have they talked about, at all about, and I haven't heard this, I was gonna ask them, what their feelings are if, of actually having the library close if the override doesn't pass. Now, is that, what is their feeling about that? You know, is it, and I haven't heard it yet, unless they talked about it at the end of that meeting.
They did say that they sort of talked generally and said that they would like to be able to fund the library, but they were talking about the base budget at that point, and they said they didn't see a way to do that. They didn't see another place to take the money from the base budget to put in the library. So they did talk about the base budget, they didn't talk too much about the override budget.
What I did
I think that
today,
was tonight.
was I got, I've lost it. I only have 2 copies of this, but this is, the free cash that the town has, had for the last 10 years. Not one of these figures is less than the library budget. You know, I know they
Mhm.
like to use free cash for, capital items or one-shot things, but, the last 3 years it's been over $1 million. And these are the certified free cash, this is from DOR. So, you know, I don't understand why a town would wanna cut one of their services like this when they have this free cash kicking around too. I mean, I know they've used 500,000 this year in the operating budget, but, they used 450 for capital items too. And I, that's one thing I have a hard time seeing, so.
And the free cash for this year is almost $1.6 million.
Yeah.
They did go over where it came from at one of the meetings. I don't remember what it was, but I mean, we've been lucky, but it's, you know, a lot of it is one-time things. I mean, and they do budget conservatively, but,
Yeah, capital expenditures too, both.
yeah.
When I,
So nice.
was looking at stuff today, I was looking at the DOR's FAQ or whatever they are, is that the right terminology? And they said it should be from 3 to 5%, free cash should be conservatively budgeted, that it's 3 to 5%. Well, if our budget is 25 million, that would make it like 750 for us. And so why do we have
What is that?
twice the amount of free cash than that conservative amount?
I cannot remember. I know they went over it, but
But
I've
I
been
think
to so
Right
many
now.
meetings, I can't
the issue
remember.
that's been made in several of the meetings that you cannot count on the free cash. And we would be facing the same thing next year.
Yeah.
And theoretically, the override would help us for the next 5 years. And so we'd be sitting right here like we did last year, kind of
Yeah.
blindsided by all of a sudden the library's not in the budget. Do we wanna do that again next year? I don't.
I don't.
And Justin will be gone.
Yeah, I mean,
You
there's
know,
no
and-
stability for us, for the staff, for the town.
The override gives us the opportunity to know we're going to be here for 5 years.
Do
And
we know we're gonna be here for 5 years? Are you certain? Because they were, all of a sudden they
That's-
switched their tune and
well-
it said 2.5 years it would settle us for. So that's another question to FinCom, you know, is how long is this 1.5 million
Yeah,
override?
if we're supporting this in good faith, I would hope that they would have the good faith to then also.
That's okay.
Here, Jeffrey. I can even give you the head of the thing.
Got here as fast as I could.
That's okay. Ellie was showing us what the free cash is projected to be.
Well, this is up through this year, so it started, this is just the last 10 years of free cash.
So the question is, do we want to just depend on free cash for the rest of our,
Precarious existence.
or do we want to have support of the town to really fund the library? I think if the override passes, that'll be a strong statement from the community that they want the library. And we won't be sitting here every year trying to figure out how to, you know, whether we're gonna go out of business.
Well, what if in 2 years they decide, oh, well, that's it,
I
for the
can't-
1.5 million override question, let's cut the library again, it worked, you know, and that,
Yeah.
I just don't, I don't
Yeah.
want that to happen either, and I don't know how to get the town to realize that, you know, here's this $200,000 budget, and we're, you know, are we the cause of everybody's woes, and so therefore cut us out?
Okay, so the question is, why is the library being held hostage to this?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that.
Well, first of all, it's not considered a safety issue. So,
Obviously.
or an educational issue. So they'll always come first. Whether, when education or schools are involved, or anything safety is involved, they will always put us first. And I think you'll find that in every single town that you go to. That will always take precedent over anything else.
But the reality is, if the override doesn't pass, I mean, we'll be cut this year, then senior center, then everything else, public safety. The schools are very close to minimum
Already.
funding. So if the override doesn't pass, it'll just be cuts after cuts.
Yeah,
after
it's not
cuts.
just the library.
No.
It's, I mean, as much as we're fighting for the library, it is not just the library. You're looking at losing out of your fire and police. You're looking at losing more out of the school system. I mean, they're already paired. Justin, they don't have any kind of librarian at the schools, do they?
They don't in the high school, and the middle school, I think they have like an assistant who works there for a couple of hours a week.
Yeah.
I don't know about the elementary school.
But aren't they being accredited this year?
Yeah, they're up for accreditation, so they're gonna have to hire a librarian. But then as soon as they're accredited, they'll probably let them go. Because that's how it's gone every cycle leading up to this
Yeah,
point.
that, there is a history of that because they can't maintain it.
And that's not just a Douglas thing,
Yeah.
that's an everywhere thing.
Blackstone Valley Technical does that too.
Yeah, I know, my granddaughter goes there, she
It's like a
tells me
shell
about
game,
it.
it's like a shell game?
It's like you get your affairs in order, you know, for accredited, you know, like the same way, you know, if you're being audited, then you're gonna get all your stuff in order, it's gonna be all spick and span, you're gonna pass the audit, and then you're gonna stop caring as much, you know, you're gonna let things
And how long is
slip.
it, every 10 years or something like that?
I don't know what it
Eight
is
or
for
10.
public schools. You know, it was an issue in graduate school too. You know, if you look at the rankings of library graduate programs, you know, they shift depending on who's up for accreditation in the next couple of years. You know, as you get closer to accreditation, you'll become closer to being in the top 10 programs in the United States. And then as soon as that wave passes, then
Okay.
It kind of hits the valley instead of the peak.
But they still charge a lot of dough.
Yeah.
yes, they do.
We have a number of extra guests. Thank you for coming.
It's
Um,
nice to have friends.
If, is any comments from any of you of what's going here and
This, don't take this wrong, this isn't what I think, but I do know that if you look at funding the library with free cash, you're not gonna get support from the Board of Selectmen, definitely aren't gonna support it. The FinCom absolutely is not gonna support it. And I did a little research, when I found out how much free cash was there, I was like, wow, that's a lot of money, but then I did a little research into it, it's not that unusual. The amount that the percentage that Douglas has is free cash compared to other towns and how it's done. It's not that unusual, it's pretty spot on.
Yeah. And I remember one of our first meetings that we attended with the Board of Selectmen. They had already said no with the free cash.
Well, that was the whole battle we fought last year.
And they
'Cause I mean,
And they brought it up again this
we
year.
got, it's a miracle we survived last year without a $100,000 budget cut. But you know, the gauntlet was laid down, we received ultimatums from FinCom and the Board of Selectmen, this isn't gonna happen again.
Mhm.
Yeah, right, it was quite last year.
Yeah. But I remember one of the first meetings that we attended and started speaking to
Mhm.
for this fiscal year. The issue of free cash was brought up. And gauntlet was down again, no. So, I agree with this gentleman over here.
I'm Fred Fontaine, by the way.
Hi, Fred. I'm Ramona. Yeah, that, it won't fly. It definitely will not fly. They've already made noise about that. They've got that free cash, some of it earmarked for something already, which is gonna decrease the amount that we have, but they don't wanna bring it below a certain level.
No, they have to spend all the dough. So what they did was they took what was left over, which was about $450,000, and said to capital, all right, you can have this. So the money is all gone now.
Okay.
any
And
more?
it's not our savings
Yeah.
fund. It's stabilization is savings for
Yeah.
the town.
Okay. What's in that?
2.5 million. It's the rainy day fund. You know, the state has one too. Theirs is
awful
much
rainy.
bigger.
It's awful rainy.
Any other comments or questions on the budget? It's not very much money, is it?
No,
You know?
it doesn't even come to 1%. It's like, what, 0.5%?
Last year we were
It's
0.68% of the town's budget.
not even a full percent, it's still below 1% of the budget.
But it falls on us to save the town this year. It makes
Yeah.
sense.
Well, it falls
Because
on the
we're so
library.
popular.
Yeah.
We are popular.
Yeah.
We probably get more use than town government gets.
Mhm.
So we're open to everyone.
Yes.
That's true. That's true.
All right, let me move on to the next,
I'll excuse myself, I have a meeting at 7.
Sorry. Thank you.
thank you for showing up.
Thank you, Greg.
Old, I got any old business? Right? Any new business?
It's National Library Week.
Yeah.
Everybody, woo!
I saw
Patron brought us donuts this morning. It was great. But no, there are a couple of things I would like to mention. Josh Tatro has been leading book clubs on Thursday nights at the library for the last 8 years. The greatest book club ever.
Yeah, he does a great job.
You know, he has not worked in Douglas for a while, but he's continued to do this for free. He's getting married, he has another job. His last book club is going to be in May. May 17th at 6:30 is going to be the last of the greatest book clubs ever, unless someone else picks it up. But it will be the last, led by Josh Tatro, who has kind of a legendary personality, you know, among the Douglas literati. So it would be nice, you know, if you want to read The 100-Year-Old Man Who Climbed Out of the Window and Disappeared by Jonas Jonasson, you know, having a big turnout for that book club would be a nice end cap on his 8-year volunteer run of leading this book club. Yeah, we'll make it special.
What date was
June, May 17th at 6:30 p.m. And I wanted to bring that up tonight since, you know,
Yeah.
next meeting gets closer. June 5th also is going to be an authors fair. This is kind of something that's popped up. But I've got 3 local authors who are going to be at the library at 6:30 on June 5th for signing and book sales and book talks and whatnot. And that number is growing.
That's fantastic.
So, you know, it started just because, you know, I always get, you know, a bunch of emails like, you know, I'm a local author, I wrote this book, can I come do a book signing? Like, well, you're welcome to, but, you know, no one's going to come if we don't do this. But, you know, if we get more together and turn it into a book fair and have them all there at the same time, then it turns into kind of a thing. And I don't know, as we get closer, maybe we can apply for a liquor license that night or something.
Yeah.
And have an author book party. And
Or at
depending on
least
what
some
happens on May
coffee or
9th, it
something.
might be kind of like a,
A last hurrah.
it might have a funereal tone.
No, we'll be cheering. Our budget is.
We will be cheering, hopefully. The people here are working tirelessly
Yes.
to that end. And there's actually a rally at the library on 9:30.
On April 14th.
On April
That's-
14th. That's this Saturday.
This
Yeah,
Saturday.
what did I say?
Oh, okay.
Is it-
Well, I
yeah.
don't know.
This Saturday at 9:30, come to the library.
Yes.
I'm supposed to be out
If you
front.
can.
Yeah.
With your sandwich boards.
Yes. You find- With my sandwich boards that you're gonna make me.
Yes.
Yeah, that's gonna be outside, right?
Mhm.
Okay.
How do you find out about that?
Hmm?
How do people find out about that since
We've been advertising.
where?
Just
'Cause
starting
I'm
to do
just now
outreach
hearing
now.
it.
We're just starting to do outreach now.
Yes.
Emails, website, Facebook, but it's,
Mhm.
nothing other than a few emails have been sent.
There's a sign
the
out
press
front.
release was still being edited
Right.
when I left the library to
Right.
come to this meeting. But as soon as it's ready, which I'm hoping will be later tonight, then we can find an apolitical way to put it on the library Facebook and stuff.
Right.
The sign out front. Right.
I can't put it on the sign out front.
Sure you can. If you
Political
can't, I can put it out
How-
there.
How about a little sandwich board, like on that grassy spot right next to the curb where,
If someone else puts it up, I won't take it down, but I can't do it.
Mhm.
That's one thing I can't do. I cannot use library signage or put it out on library property. The whole,
Yeah,
page
that's
I
after
put
the
on the
sidewalk.
website, I had legal counsel from every library vet that before I put it up.
Mhm.
And, they're like, okay, that's good. And I was like, I have a sign out front. They're like, no, That's not good.
Yeah, you know,
Remember
that
a few
grassy
years ago,
spot.
we had a banner at the,
Yes, yeah.
that was probably illegal then, huh?
That was-
I put it up. So, you know,
Coming to get you.
yeah, it's all right for us to be
So,
illegal.
Someone has to,
Mitch yelled at me, all right, so, and we were done, but I'm sorry, a banner would be awesome and I'd be glad to put it up, but it's.
That's not gonna happen
yeah,
again,
it's-
no,
Yeah.
okay.
It's a couple, 3 weeks to get that made. Unless we have a
It didn't
canvas
help.
and a can of paint.
Got a little
Stencils
graffiti
and
on the
roll.
library wall.
Mm.
the back wall is giant and bare and plain, but you know, no one goes there who doesn't already use the library
Yeah, so you
parking
can
lot.
put it on the
Right.
grassy sidewalk, grassy part of the sidewalk, so.
Yeah, that grassy spot between the curb and the sidewalk.
Yes.
There's a sign there for the high school play sometimes and that, there.
Okay.
That's not library property, that's town property.
Have access to it, sign thing.
If something goes up there, I won't take it down and I won't report it, so.
As you, can we go on to another thing?
Yeah, yeah.
New business, old business?
It's, well, we're in new business.
New biz.
As you know, I put a I offered space in the paper in the Blackstone Valley Express, this week's issue, to anyone who wanted to write a letter. And I also drafted a number of questions for both the Board of Selectmen and for the school committee. And
Or
I got,
FinCom,
no,
school committee?
school committee.
Oh.
Well, because they're impacted by the override too.
Mhm.
And so I went to the printer this afternoon, so nothing terrible happens tonight. But they did, both Matt and the selectmen and then the superintendent the schools answered all the questions that I had posed, which have to do with the facts, not necessarily opinions, but I basically asked for what's the difference between the base budget and the override budget, you know, what was cut in the base budget and then what would be, how would the override budget be used, so they gave me very comprehensive answers. And then I got a number of letters, about 14 letters from people, from different individuals, and they're all published. Every letter I received was published. And then I also put some things together about facts about the library and the override, because there's a lot of misconception about what happens if the library's closed.
Yeah.
And then Jean sent me the actual numbers, what it means to a homeowner. And then I also did a little research, because something that prompted, that Justin had prompted, he said, if Douglas is decertified, we'll be one of the only towns with a population of over 1,000, except for one, right? There's these tiny towns that have a population of like 272. But there's one town that has a large population, that's Wareham. And their library was decertified. They don't not have a library, they have a library. It was just decertified because their budget was cut disproportionately to the rest of the town departments. So that's an anomaly, you know, and they have a 5-year plan to be recertified. So this is not something that they wished upon themselves and happened, but they're doing everything they can to get out of it, because they say it's been devastating to the town, to the population, not to have a certified library. So I also put in a few paragraphs from their 5-year plan to recertify the library and why. So
Okay.
it's just, go ahead.
No, finish.
And so that's it. So it's mostly facts, and I call it voices, which is the voices of people in town. And as I said, I published every letter I received. And so if somebody wasn't heard, it's, you know, it wasn't that they were overlooked, it was, they were
Where's
not
that
included.
published?
This is the Blackstone Valley Express.
Okay.
And
But
it
that's
comes.
different, isn't it, than the Yankee Express?
Well, it's the same publication, it's just that in the Blackstone Valley, we call it Blackstone Valley Express. In Webster, Dudley, Oxford, Auburn, we call it Yankee Express.
Okay.
But it's the
Yeah.
same publication, same
Yeah.
group of people, but we publish every week, but every week we go to a different group of towns. And then, so we have different names, so that people will have because Blackstone Valley Express means more to you, to us, than it would in Webster, you know, so.
When can we read it? When is it
I
out?
know.
When do we
Well,
get
I
it?
have copies
Yeah.
of it here, but it's went to print this afternoon. We'll have it in our office back from the printer on Wednesday morning. It'll be brought to the post office on Wednesday. And so it should be in your mailboxes on Thursday.
Oh, awesome. Yes.
Okay, let me ask you
Alright.
something. Where
And I
has
have,
the-
I just had one copy here, you can take a quick peek at it. I'm sorry, it's not, yes, it's reduced size. Yeah, no, I know, but it's all I could do it for the
library,
moment.
is that handicapped accessible already?
I think so.
Which
Okay,
one?
Wareham,
Oh, I
they handicapped accessible already?
don't
Because
know.
if we would become decertified and then wanna go back onto recertification, we're not only facing
Not for recertification, to open again.
to open again, yeah, but if we just, yeah, okay, all right, so that's it.
Because if you want to get recertified, the only thing you have to do is meet a certain amount of
Okay.
requirements and fulfill your MAR. So say you weren't decertified this year, but you managed to keep the library running on a $50,000 budget from the town, which they are not giving us, but you know, if that were to happen and you were able to keep the doors open for 25 hours a week and spend 19% of everything you spend on circulating materials and a certain number of the hours, I'm not sure what, have to be in the evening or weekend. Then the following year, if you manage to keep all those, you know, cross all,
Yeah.
check off all that list, then you could apply for certification again. And then you could, your MAR would be lower. Because
Okay.
that $50,000 a year would be integrated into the 3-year formula.
If we close, what if no town funds are used?
If no town funds are used and the library closes,
Now, say it stays open partial,
if no town funds are used and you're open partially, your MAR for that, or your appropriation for that year is 0. But you can't apply unless you spent the entirety of the previous fiscal year in compliance with the service codes. So you still have to be open 25 hours a week at least, with some of those hours in the evening and weekend, and you have to spend 19% on circulating materials.
okay.
So you have to find a way to do that with 0 money.
What about ADA?
ADA is not an issue there for the
Okay,
Massachusetts Board
because
of
I
Library
had
Commissioner
read somewhere
certification.
that, no, I'm talking about reopening, okay, so,
Well, if you close completely,
okay.
there's no library. And then, you know, 5 years from now, Douglas says, you know, we want to have a library again. Or
Yeah,
someone
that'll-
donates the building again, you know, say the building reverts to the Fairfields. And then they donate it back in 5 years. And the town has a plan. At that point, you're opening a new facility. You're opening a new library. And then it has to be fully ADA compliant when it opens. Because
So if
it's a
we-
new service.
So if we use private funds to keep it open, even if we don't meet the certification things, but the library isn't closed completely,
I don't think so, no.
then ADA isn't gonna be an issue when we do put ourselves in a position.
It should not.
Okay, because I had read somewhere that it might.
Not for library certification with the MBLC. That's a Massachusetts Office on Disabilities matter.
Okay, so they could come back at us and say, hey, now that you're becoming certified again. you're
Well,
gonna be
it's two
ADA.
separate camps. You know,
Okay.
they have their own, you know, laws that apply to their jurisdiction, and then, you know, the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners has their own laws that do their thing. And there's no interplay between the two groups, you know. In
Okay.
order to not have the Massachusetts Office of Disability come on your head, you can't spend more on a project beyond a certain threshold as a fraction of what the building is worth. And I've got those numbers at the library somewhere. I think it's 30%.
Yeah,
If
I
you
think
spend
I-
more than 30% of the building's assessed value
On a
in a
project.
period of a year, then you're in trouble. But that's never going to happen.
We consider it.
I mean, if we had that kind of money,
$2,500 on carpet.
Yeah.
Okay, I just want to clarify that, because I thought I had run across something that said that.
So it's not cumulative, that those building funds that you,
No, not to a certain point. There's like a threshold beyond which it resets. It's either a year, it's 3 years, it's something like that.
Okay.
I don't have that data in front of me, but it's not a threshold you will ever come close to meeting. Because, I mean, if you had, 30% of the building's assessed value to spend on capital improvements, then I think that you could easily get the capital committee to pitch in with the remaining, 100,000 or so it would take to, do that $250,000 innovation project that we had written
And you
up
did-
for the
you did
Office on
figure-
Disability Grant.
you did figure out what our assessed value was, didn't
Yeah, I
you?
don't remember what it is
Yeah.
at this point. I think it's like, I would be making up a
Yeah,
number.
because
I'm
Charlie
sorry.
had been concerned about, why didn't we get the assessment upped? Because it might kick in, but apparently you had investigated further, I think, and so I guess not.
The assessment's already high enough that the fraction of it is beyond what we're gonna spend without becoming ADA compliant.
Okay.
Or making significant strides towards that end.
Okay.
Because you don't even have to, beyond that threshold, like everything you spend, it has to be demonstrated that it was done with the full intent of increasing accessibility. Any no people?
With that, I got a question. What about our assets that are earmarked for certain items? Are they able to be spent down?
No. Well, building donations, you probably couldn't earmark. Let's see.
Can we discuss that at the next month's, or after
You know
the
what?
override?
I'm asking the question so we try to find out ask the question so that we can go after it and find out. Because nobody in here is an expert on it, and they're saying yes or no. We need to come up and maybe that's gotta be asked,
Jean might be able to help us.
You also see a number on this budget, which it looks impressive, and it's not,
Yeah, because certain monies we can't touch.
Yeah, but then again, if the inevitable happens,
Like this 10,000 right there,
yeah,
can't touch that.
fine.
Yeah, the
That's the
Simon
Richard
Fairfield
Douglas.
non-expendable, you can't touch. I mean,
Mhm.
Yeah, that was
Thanks.
given specifically that the 10,000 stays as that, and only interest can be used, and it can only be used by,
Mhm.
the revolving account has to be appropriated at town meeting.
yeah.
The Carrick Fund is unrestricted. Moan Historical Books, the language in that donation is, I mean, you could get in touch with Moan
Yeah,
to have it changed, but the way the donation accounts work is once the donation account is created for a specific purpose, the money can
Yeah.
only be spent for that
Yeah.
specific purpose. And so historical books is historical books. Building donations,
that's,
in theory, is money donated for handicapped accessibility, but there's no official language, so I mean, that money is more or less liquid, depending on how comfortable you are kind of fudging the original intent of the donation. Regular donations are unrestricted. Mass Humanities grant will be gone, because that's specifically to pay Rebecca for the inventory of the Coppola collection. The trust fund is liquid, and the expendable trust is earmarked for books.
yeah.
For the purposes of this board, it's earmarked specifically for children's books. But Jean cannot authorize it at this point for anything other than books, because that's what
Mhm.
the language of the
Yeah,
original
yeah, that's the
thingamabob
Richard
was.
Douglas.
Because it's tied to that non-expendable trust.
Yeah, that's the Richard Douglas.
Can we go to the FinCom?
Sure.
Thank you for putting this together, Barbara.
Yes.
This is amazing. That's a ton of work.
Let's do this, because we are
Can
official.
I have it back?
Can I have a motion to adjourn? Our next meeting is April 24th, 2018, regular time.
But do
Can-
we don't wanna have a motion to adjourn now, we wanna have it after we leave FinCom or something.
We may leave at different points.
I know, but if we all go, then
Quorum.
we need, we have a quorum and we have to post the meeting, and so this is just, we're gonna continue the meeting into FinCom's meeting.
Okay,
Okay. Need a second on
we
that?
need a motion for that?
Yeah.
Second,
All right, Ellie made a motion, Barbara seconded, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Thank you, and thank you for coming in.